Welcome to Breathe, a weekly audio podcast presented by Breath of Life. And now, here's the host, Pastor Snell, and co-host David Person.
Welcome to Breathe. I'm David Person, the co-host of this podcast that is a presentation of the Breath of Life television ministry. And of course, you know that our host is Pastor Snell. He is the senior pastor of the Oakwood University Church, and he's the speaker director of Breath of Life. Now, normally I would be saying right about now, Pastor Snell I would be introducing him, and then he would jump right in. But Pastor Snell is not here for this episode of Breathe. Many of you may know, especially if you listened to the last episode, that he has been out of the country. He and his wife and children have been out of the country, and they are still making their way back to Huntsville. So he was not able to make this session for Breathe, but we certainly are glad that they are back safe and sound. So I'm holding it down for Pastor Snell, and I'm glad to have with me in the studio Tyson Bell, who is a teacher and an author. He's an Oakwood University graduate. He's currently a third grade teacher in the public school system in Columbus, Ohio, where he's been doing that for over 20 years. And you don't look old enough to.
I appreciate that.
They
say it doesn't crack, so
I'm glad. That's what it is, man. And you're the author of a book titled "My Dad is Cooler Than Your Dad." You know we're going to have to get into that, Tyson. So welcome. Glad to have you with us.
It's good to be here. It's very good to be here.
You came all the way down from Columbus to do this.
All the way from Buckeye State.
All right. We love it. All right. So let's talk about your book. My Dad is Cooler Than Your Dad. That is an interesting title. What's the gist of the book?
I wanted to I've always wanted to write a book, because being a teacher, you read good books and there's always some bad books. And I read some books and I was just like, some of these books are just so bad. I was like, I can do this. And I don't think it wasn't until COVID came. I'd gotten to around 2019, 2020, I'd gotten really, really burnt out with teaching. And, teachers can deal sometimes with a lot of children that don't know how to act. And I was at a really bad school at the time. And I realized that I didn't want to teach anymore. So I actually resigned from education, didn't know what I wanted to do. A part of me actually wanted to do this. I wanted to do film and broadcasting. That was actually my dream job, even before I came to Oakwood. So I actually applied at a school in Columbus called Columbus College of Art and Design to be a filmmaker. So I applied there. I said, I'm quitting teaching. I'm going to do this. I don't know how I'm going to make money. But during that time, I went back to school. I started for a month, but it was all online because of COVID. And doing film school online was really, really difficult.
I can imagine.
And for someone in their 40s going back to school, it was just hard. So I ended up quitting that. So I'd gotten to a point where I was really depressed, really frustrated. I was like, God, I could have sworn you told me to leave teaching. Then I thought you were leading me to media. That didn't work out. I was cleaning as a janitor, full time. So I had a lot of time during the day on my hands, and I felt like God was telling me, hey, this is the time to write that book. And I was like, well, I've never written a book. I don't know anything about writing, but what am I going to write about? So I kind of thought about two things that I love, and I love being a dad, and I love comic books, because I'm a grown man who still reads and collects comic books. So
well, you're not alone. There are a lot who do, apparently.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I decided I would create something that would mix the two of these together. So I came up with this character called Daddy Man.
Daddy Man.
Yeah, the kids love it. It's kind of a goofy name. But I just took time out of my day. I went to the library. I wrote, and like in a month and a half, I wrote the whole book.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, I did it. Then there's the whole illustration process and then the publishing process. And then within a year, I had a finished copy of the book.
Wow.
And it just blew me away, because I never would have, I don't think if I would have been teaching or doing my regular job, I don't think I would have done it.
So Daddy Man is the key character in My Dad is Cooler Than Your Dad?
He's the key character, and in the book, the son is kind of narrating how his dad is like a superhero. He's like secretly a superhero, and he says like each page is a different ability that he has, but it still matches with like a trait that a father has. You know, like he's a super thinker. He helps me with my math homework. You know, he's super fast. He does all this stuff around the house, all these chores that, you know, dads they do, but they really don't do. But it's funny when I would read it to students, I would say, you know, Daddy Man does laundry. He does dishes. He cooks dinner. And I said, does your dad do that? And there's always one child who says no. So it's always so funny. But yeah, it's just the son is narrating about his dad throughout the whole story.
So it's a celebration of dads.
Yeah.
And you're characterizing as superhero traits the things that dads do that maybe go underappreciated or underrecognized.
Absolutely. I wanted to celebrate the heroes that we see in our fathers. I feel like there's, you know, a lot of bad dads in our world, and they get, you know, are usually the ones we see the most on the news or we hear about. You know, even I didn't have a really good relationship with my father, you know, so that I was like, you know what, but I wanted to highlight and showcase that there are some great fathers. And so that was one of the main purposes for me writing the book as well.
So do you, and I'm asking this, you're an African-American man. Did you depict the key character, Dad Man, as an African-American? Or
I did. Okay. And when I looked for illustrators, that was one of the things, because I was like, I don't draw. I was like, I Google searched African-American illustrators. And, you know, all these people came up, and I found a young lady. Her name's Melissa Mickendo. And, you know, I never met her. That's the funny thing. We've never even talked. We've only responded through email.
Right.
So at first I was like, okay, Lord, I hope she's not going to scam me financially. So I sent her email, and then she said I would love to do it. She sent me some of her samples, and, you know, we worked up a contract, paid the money, and, you know, she did it. And I told her, I said, everything has to be African-American. I said, I want a black boy, black father. I want everything to be black. Because I wanted to reach those black and brown kids that I teach. You know, I wanted them to see themselves in the book. And even for those white students that I teach, I wanted them to see something different as well.
So what has your experience been dealing with children as a teacher, as it relates to their experiences with their dads?
A lot of since I teach third grade, so I have usually that's 8 or 9 year olds.
Yeah.
A lot of the boys that I teach, and girls as well, there's usually no dad. You know, either there's mom's boyfriend or dad may be there, but he's not there. One of the things about being a black male teacher I've learned is that most buildings I've taught in, I'm usually the only chocolate chip in the school. You know, I'm usually maybe the only black person, or I'm usually only the black male. You know, it's either me and the janitor. You know, we're usually the two black male faces in the building. So sometimes your black boys will always gravitate toward that. So I get a lot of that. You know, I have a lot of my colleagues who will send me their boys that are giving them trouble to my classroom, and I build a relationship with them because they don't have fathers in their lives. So it's really important. That's one thing I really wish there were more. A lot of black male teachers teach high school. You know, there's not many that want to teach elementary school.
Why
it's
is
very
that?
rare. I honestly don't know. I don't know if it just, they think that little kids need to be it's more of a maternal thing. I don't know, because most people I work with are all white women, really. You know, there's a few black women, but I don't know, a lot of young male, when they're in education, they don't want to teach little kids. I mean, I would prefer little children. I can't do the older children. That just would not work for me at all.
Wouldn't work for you.
Yeah. But we need more. And I think it hit me hard. I went to a workshop in Texas about 5 or 6 years ago, and it didn't hit me to see how our black boys felt till I was in this workshop. And I looked around the sea of thousands of people, and I was like, I think I'm the only black man in this workshop. And I really felt uncomfortable. And I was like, it's hard for me to relate to what's being presented when I don't see anyone or anything that looks like me. And I said, I think that's what our boys have to go through.
Yeah.
Because a lot of and actually I think a teacher at Oakwood taught me that black boys have it the hardest because, females can relate to the teacher if they're female, no matter what their race is. But a black male boy can't relate because one, the race is not the same or their gender. So actually, yeah, it was a teacher at Oakwood that taught me that. I remember that in the education department. Yeah.
So what's your process when you're trying to cultivate a relationship with these boys who don't have relationships with the fathers or dysfunctional relationships? What's your process?
There was a young man this year. He would come to my class every day at 2:00 if he had a good day. I would try to sit down, see some things that they like. When they come to the room, I talk to them. How was your day? What did you do wrong today? How could you have done better? We have like a check-in, check-out system at our school. So then in the morning, they'll kind of check in with you, and then throughout the day, you check with them. But it's really just consistency with them. When I see them in the hallway, I speak to them. I really wanted to get, I'm going to try to do this next year, like some kind of after-school program just for boys. I want to do something with Legos and like call it Bros and Bricks or Bricks and Bros or something like that. Something that they can use with their hands, because little boys they need to do things with
Very
their hands.
tactile.
Yeah. And actually, I wanted to do a media program with boys after school, like teaching them how to record and do some editing on Adobe and stuff like that. So I want to do one of those two things with boys after school, because I think it's important.
Sure. I can. I love, of course, being in media. I love the idea of starting with little boys and helping them to understand what media is and how to create content and how that can, what they can do with that skill set. Because there are a variety of things they can do. What do you see as you've described what is a challenge in the school system, the public school system. What do you see at church as it relates to boys? Do you observe a similar kind of challenge?
That's a good question. I know in my current church, we're struggling to get, members back. It's been hard coming from COVID, because I know we currently don't have too many children that I see that show up on Sabbath mornings. But I guess it's different with church, because church, you kind of see the mom and the dad. So for the most part, I don't necessarily see that problem in at least my church. I see it more in the school. I think only because you deal so much more with the community.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't see it. But I still would love to do something like that with churches as well, because it's just as important to me as well.
My dad is cooler than your dad. That's a comparison.
It is, and the funny thing is, the title was originally "My Dad is Better Than Your Dad," and the illustrator, for some reason, she got it wrong and she changed it, and I actually was like, "Oh, I think I like cooler better." So I went through what she changed, because he's kind of comparing his father to the reader's father, and then by the end of the book, he's thinking, I guess my dad is cool, and your dad probably is cool, so all dads are cool. This is what you need to do to him. Give him a big hug, all that good stuff like that. So,
what's the biggest challenge you think these boys are facing at 8 and 9 years old?
I think at 8 and 9 years old, they're big. I think they want to be seen, and they want to be heard, and they want to know that they matter. I think I see that in my 12-year-old son. He'll do things. It's like, okay, Daddy, come watch me. Watch me play basketball. Watch me play this video game. I think they just want to be seen and heard. And I think, like I said before, it's important to draw out their talents, because I think our young black boys are so talented. And I think sometimes they're put on the back burner, and, that's all that talent sitting there. But I think just to be seen and be heard.
You talked about the challenges that you didn't talk about the challenges, but you said that you didn't have a great relationship with your own father. How do you think that, what impact did that have on you?
That almost made me not want to write the book, because I literally was like, okay, God, how am I supposed to write a book about a father and a son when I did not have that in my life? And that actually almost, when we were finding out we were having a son, I was kind of nervous, because I was like, well, how do I raise a boy? I don't know how to raise a boy. My dad was never there, and I'm not a sports person. I don't really do sports like that. And I said, what if he goes and wants to play basketball? I said, I don't know how to teach him that. So I was really very reluctant when we found out it was a boy. But that didn't keep me from writing the book. I was like, okay, I'm going to write it anyway because I have a good relationship with my son. And I didn't want to allow the obstacle that I had with my father to keep me from being obedient to what God wanted me to do.
What a fascinating conversation with author Tyson Bell, the author of the book, My Dad is Cooler Than Your Dad. We hope that you'll join us for part 2 of my conversation with Tyson Bell on the next episode of Breathe. I'm David Person. God bless you. And on behalf of Pastor Snell, Speaker Director of Breath of Life, and the host of Breathe, God bless you. And don't forget, no matter how challenging life may get, you can always stop, pray, and breathe.
Breathe is produced by David Person for Breath of Life. Christian Lawson and Damian Malone provide production assistance. The opening theme was produced by David Person and James Bowman. James Bowman and Kelvin Wooten produced the closing theme. Special thanks to our broadcast partner, WJOU-FM Oakwood University Radio. Episodes of Breathe can be found on your favorite podcasting platforms. Please like them and share. Until next time, when life gets difficult, don't forget to breathe.